How often do we get to say this? There were fireworks in Cambridge tonight between the Trump and Clinton's campaign. Following every election since 1972, the Kennedy School up at Harvard has hosted the top campaign aides to capture what they call a first draft of history. One of the discussions was moderated by our own Andrea Mitchell, who will join us in a moment. So there was Trump campaign manager Kellyanne Conway with her team squared off against Clinton campaign manager Robbie Mook and his team, and it got heated, especially on the topic of Trump's chief strategist, Steve Bannon.
He gets held to a standard that none of these other folks are.
Well, if providing a platform for white supremacists makes me a brilliant tactician, I am glad to have lost. And give me a minute, David. I am more proud of Hillary Clinton's all right speech than any other moment on the campaign, because she had the courage to stand up. I would rather lose than win the way you guys did.
No, you wouldn't.
Yes.
No, you wouldn't.
Yes.
That's very clear today. No, you wouldn't, respectfully. I'm sorry, how exactly did we win? No, go for it, Jen. How exactly did we win? I'd like to know, because I've sacrificed the last 4 months of my life to do it. Excuse me. And we did it. And we did it by looking at the schedule and looking at, yes, the electoral map of 270, because that's how you win the presidency.
One of my proudest moments of her is her standing up and saying with courage and clarity, in Steve Bannon's own words and Donald Trump's own words, the platform that they gave to white supremacists, white nationalists, and it is a very important moment in our history as our country. And I think as his presidency goes forward, I'm going to be very glad to have been part of the campaign that tried to...
Hey, Jen, do you think I ran a campaign where white supremacists had a platform? You going to look me in the face and tell me that?
It did. Kellyanne
really?
did.
And that's how you lost?
It did.
Do you think you could have just had a decent message for the white working class voters? Do you think this woman who has nothing in common with anybody, we flipped over 200 counties that President Obama won and Donald Trump just won? You think that's because of what you just said, or because people aren't ready for a woman president? Really? How about it's Hillary Clinton? She doesn't connect with people. How about they have nothing in common with her?
Wow. NBC's Andrea Mitchell, who, as I said, moderated that forum today, is with us. Casey Hunt is just back from there. She was also present for that as a panelist. Nicole Wallace remains here, important because she has taken part in this event twice, once on the winning team, once on the losing team. Casey, we were just peppering you with questions because you're just in from there. I don't think I've ever heard anything like that, especially not
right?
at this.
Like, what was the moon like?
What was it like?
Look, when we first walked into that room, you could cut the tension with a knife. And I'm not sure that anyone there expected a moment like that one that we just played to actually happen. But on the other hand, when it did, it was almost unsurprising, because these two campaigns showed up to continue fighting this election. Frankly, the Trump campaign came to gloat about their win, and the Clinton campaign came to defend her honor, essentially.
And relitigate it to a certain extent.
And relitigate what had happened. You're absolutely right.
Andrea Mitchell, in our business, moderating is a frequent thing we are called upon to do. We do it happily, and usually the participants come, they do their thing, everybody shakes hands and goes home. This sounds, and I know you've been around for a couple of these, this sounds unlike anything else.
It really was. As Casey was saying, the tension was there. It was Dan Balls of the Washington Post and Catherine Miller from BuzzFeed and me. And we had a game plan. We had done what past moderators have done. And you all know what this is like. We went through the timeline of the campaign, the themes, prepared, studied, divided up the questions. We were going to get this first draft of history, asking each of the campaigns what was happening in your strategy sessions behind the scene, because it's going to be a book, and there were Harvard students there, and the whole point was to get this record. And instead, they were just going at each other. And as Casey said, there was a lot of gloating going on the part of the Trump team, and the Clinton team very defensive, but defending their principal, Hillary Clinton. And the attacks got more and more raw, and the anger more raw, and there was emotion. And it was we didn't know whether to step in, whether to back off. It was very, very tough.
The fact that there's just audio and no video almost increases the drama, especially when Jen Palmieri gets choked up. So, Nicole, I assume you liked the Harvard Kennedy School Forum better as a winning candidate and not a losing candidate, but they were all magnanimous.
Here's the thing. I went in 04 after we won, and I went in 08 after we lost. In both instances, the tone is set by the winning campaign. Yeah. When you win, it is your job to make the other side feel comfortable because you have the far easier job. The Trump campaign is so unique because from the top of the organization on down, they are grinding axes like it's going out of style. And when you have won and you show up with an axe to grind, you throw off the entire dynamic. It's supposed to be what Andrea Mitchell just described, this first draft of history. So you answer honestly. Oh, you know, in 08, for example, David Axelrod said, oh, we thought we were screwed when Sarah Palin gave that convention speech. It was so good. Biden said, oh, bleep, bleep. And then the winning campaign says, oh, we thought we were, you know, screwed when you went to Germany and all, you know, 100 million people stood there. We were like, oh, God. You know, and it's super frank and honest because the result has been had. This is so different, and this exchange about race particularly raw because this is where I think the Clinton side feels like the country is in danger. This is where they feel like, yes, she lost, our side lost, but she lost, and now there is someone who has given safe haven to white supremacy. That's how they feel. And Kellyanne Conway, for her part, by the way, Kellyanne Conway and Jen Palmieri, it's worth noting, are both the best at their business on each side. So this is like two apex predators, you know, a cheetah and a tiger circling each other. They're both the best at what they do. And they both believe they're right. So Kellyanne Conway thinks they won by speaking to the forgotten man and woman. Jen Palmieri thinks they lost because the Trump side gave safe haven to white supremacy.
Case.
And there was incredible frustration at the media as well. And I think that
I can't imagine
the
that.
undertone, for a wide variety of reasons in each instance. But I think Jen Palmieri, one of the undertones of that is that she doesn't feel as though there's anybody else saying what she said, that the media is not willing to call Donald Trump out on all of those things and actually call people what they are. And Andrea, I imagine there wasn't any mention that we got the election wrong.
Well, their real argument is that everything turned after the second set of Comey letters, that last 11 days really changed the momentum, that they came out of the convention winning, and then that James Comey changed it all. And they're not acknowledging that they got the battleground wrong or didn't send her to Wisconsin. So there is a little bit of defensiveness there, but they are pointing out that they think they lost the Philadelphia suburbs and the Milwaukee suburbs, the college-educated white voters and a lot of women after that second Comey letter, and then the follow-up letter, 2 days before the election, or Sunday before the election. So they're very bitter about that. But they've certainly, as Casey is saying, they feel that we were always asking, our stories about Hillary Clinton were all about, Donald Trump said this, can you react to it? What do you think about Donald Trump? And even when it was something that the narrative that they had put out, for instance, the extraordinarily emotional Gold Star father, Mr. Khan at the convention, Jen pointed out that a lot of what we asked about on the bus trip that came out of the convention through Pennsylvania and Ohio was about Mr. Khan, because people were talking about Mr. Khan. Well, he was the emotional center of the convention. And yes, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton was talking about Mr. Khan. So it's not as though that wasn't part of their narrative as well. There's a lot of water. It's too raw. It's too soon. And as Nicole said, the winner sets the tone, and the tone was ugly.
Case.
Two things on that. On the tone and the winner setting it, I think one thing that was a little bit revisionist on the part of the Trump campaign was them going in and saying, we knew we were going to win, and just none of you all believed us. And the reality was, at the time, as we all know, they did not believe that they were going to win, and they came to most of the networks a week before and said, we're probably not going to win. I also think that the Clinton campaign, one of the sub-themes that was very important is the role that gender played in her loss. And Hillary Clinton specifically, as somebody who has taken slings and arrows for many decades in public life, and the Clinton campaign talked quite a bit about how they always heard the country is ready for a woman, but just not this woman. And Mandy Grunwald, who has been making ads and working with the Clinton family for decades. Said, you know, the thing about Hillary Clinton is that she has, if you look at her numbers, you look at the way she polls, you would think that she was a man, that people say she is strong. People say she is ready to be commander-in-chief. And Mandy Grunwald essentially said, hey, we don't know when another woman with these attributes is going to come along. She said, I've elected 6 women to the Senate. I don't know that we're going to see another one like this. And I think Jen Palmieri spoke to it as well. She talked about an evolution coming in saying, you know, I didn't think this was the case, that, you know, Hillary Clinton was simply treated unfairly all the time by the media, that there were totally different rules. She said after a year of working for her, she really believes there are a different set of rules for Hillary Clinton.
Nicole, I have to say, having gotten to know you along with the rest of our family here on television and not being from your world, I think we've been surprised at how much, at your level, the professionals know and like each other.
Yeah.
You guys at this level of play are generally all friends, and I know you talked to Jen Palmieri tonight.
Yeah, I did, and we had. You know, the end of the day version of that conversation, which went, did you ever think that working for the first woman candidate, she'd be defeated by a man who boasted about grabbing a woman in the genitals? So, I mean, it's pretty base, right? Yeah. And I think that we talked about hidden stuff at the end, with the hidden Hillary vote, hidden Trump vote. I think the conclusion, and I agree with it, is there's hidden sexism. It's rampant. And the first woman candidate from either party was defeated by someone who bragged about being a sexual aggressor, a sexual predator. I don't want to dance around the words. And he is someone who white supremacists who are excited about. Those are cold, hard facts. And, you know, what he said today was really important. We haven't played it yet, but I know you covered it live. When he said, he had one line, it was about, you know, a sentence and a half long, about how we disavow hatred and division. That should have been the speech he gave today. You know, he's not going to ever win over Jen Palmieri, but he could win over a lot of people who think that it is appalling that white supremacists are excited about him. Appalling. I worked in Republican politics my whole career. I never knew a white supremacist to be cheered by George W. Bush or John McCain. It's not normal. And when people get outraged that we're normalizing Trump, he was normalized by the voters because they elected him president. But there are pieces of his coalition that should never be given safe haven inside the Republican Party.
And there were ways in which the Republicans, who Nicole has worked with for many years, who were on the primary version of this panel, who, frankly, seemed more on the side of the Clinton operatives.
I talked to them, too. They were. And this frustration with the media that you and Andrea talked about, this bubbled over in sessions other than this final one that we played. And there are a lot of people in the media that are mad that did not work on the Clinton campaign and are not Democrats.